Swayam Rupakadamahyam Dadati Swapadanti. Okay, so shall we discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th Canto, Chapter 2. Questions. Passage 1, Vishnu Dutas refute Yamaduta's understanding of the glories of Harinam. So number 1, explain the Vishnu Dutas accusations of adharma done by the Yamadutas with emphasis on its implications for leaders in general. Agape kind of asked, he answered this last time, but we're starting over, so no harm, we can do it again. So, okay, we have Saki.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, obeisances.
Hello.
Yes, so I have written that since Yamadutas are the agents or the workforce of Yamraj, and Yamraj being one of the 12 Mahajans, the Yamadutas were expected to judge the religious and irreligious actions wisely and only punish the irreligious. And since Yamadutas were mercilessly dragging Ajamil, who was sinless because of the pretext of his chanting the holy names of the Lord, Vishnudutas accused Yamadutas for acting against the religious principles. And to the second part of this question is that Vishnudutas were seeing Yamraj as the leader of the Cosmic Justice Department, and he's responsible for the fate of both the innocent or the sinful people. And he's the one who would award the punishment to the ones who have committed offense, like sins. So it is natural for the common people to follow what the leader does or imitate the behavior of the leader and also accept as evidence whatever the leader accepts. So we have seen people in general in Kali Yuga are not very intelligent or knowledgeable to discriminate between what is religion and what is irreligion. Therefore, it is the duty of a leader or the king to provide shelter, love, affection, care, and justice to the innocent dependents who have taken shelter under their care. And a leader should never break such a trust or faith of his dependents. But in Kali Yuga, the leaders who are appointed these days are very biased, corrupt, self-motivated, exploitative. And if such faulty leaders are propagated in the society, the citizens would have no place to go for their security and shelter. So Vishnudutas were concerned that if such activities which are contrary to the religious principles are allowed to take place without being corrected, the whole society will lose faith in their leader and the society will eventually crash.
Very nice answer, very comprehensive. A very good example of this is America today. So, very good. Okay, question 2. What glories of Harinam do the Vishnudutas speak of that vindicate Ajamil from blame? Okay, who wants to go? Someone else. Saki. Sham Saki ready to answer all the questions. But we're going to give someone else the opportunity also.
Yes, I can't see who else is raising hands, Prabhu, so I can't see that. So whenever you call for me, just call for me, I'll answer.
Okay. Okay, Agape. It's going to be between Sham Saki and Agape, the whole class.
No,
right.
I'm also there, Prabhu. This is
And Sham Gopi. And Sham
Yeah.
Gopi. These 3.
No, I think we have Shama Sundari also. She said ready too.
And Sri Govinda also. He also said in the thing. Okay, Agape, you go.
Okay, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavats. So just highlighting certain parts of the scriptures they said, or the shlokas. Even though he did not chant purely, he chanted without offense, and therefore he is now pure and eligible for liberation, simply by chanting the name of Narayana. In this way, he sufficiently atoned for the sinful reactions of millions of lives, and simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu, such sinful persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, who therefore considers, because this man has chanted my holy name, my duty is to give him protection.
Nice. Yeah, I think so. The 2 main points, what glories of Harinam do the Vishnu do to speak of that vindicate Ajamils from blame? So one glory is it destroys sin, and that's the lower glory, you can say. And the higher glory is that it attracts the Lord to that person, so much so that the Lord thinks that it's his duty to protect such a person. Great. Are there any other nuances or details anyone has in their answer? Anything extra anyone wants to add? No? Third question, how do the Vishnu Dutas contrast Harinam with conventional Dharma, verses 11 and 12? Let me, really? Verses 11 and 12. Okay, who wants to go? Someone else. Also. Should I call him someone?
Can you put me?
Okay, Shri Govinda.
Haribol, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you put me?
It was making echo though.
Okay, so I wrote that the conventional dharma, such as atonement, cleanses the sin, but does not eradicate the desire. Therefore, the mind will again run towards material activities.
I'm not sure if that's the right answer.
I'm not sure if that's the right answer, but that's what I came to.
That's good.
Saki has some addition to it.
No, her hand's just always perpetually up. Does anyone have any extra things that they put in their answer?
Can't hear you.
Yes, Prabhu. I also wrote that these dharmic activities do liberate one from the sinful actions, but they do not arouse devotional sentiments.
That's also there, right? Correct. Good. Anything else anyone has in their answer? No. Okay. Next verse. What are the 5 types of chanting explained by the Vishnu Dutas? Verses 14 and 15.
I can go.
Okay.
So indirectly, jokingly, for musical entertainment, neglectfully, or in a situation not under our control, like an accident.
Right. Very good. Just neglectfully and what's the other one? They sound negative. Neglectfully and
Jokingly.
So this is done without animosity. So that should just be noted. There's no animosity there or be mukata.
Could you repeat the explanation you gave for those, Prabhu?
No.
Okay.
So Sanketyam is that's a sort of namabhas. This is in the verse 14. Sanketyam is a type of namabhas that Ajamil did, where he was indicating his son, he wasn't indicating the Lord. So this is called Sanketyam. The word parihasyam means jokingly. So like this is sort of jokes that you may pass with a friend. So that sort of joking is affectionate. You may call your friend a name. You say, so-and-so, you are like such thing, like a frog or whatever. So you're making a joke using his names also, but it is done with affection. There's no animosity in it. And then the 4th type here, stobam. So this is like for, poets specifically. They may use the name to finish the meter in their poetry. Sometimes when they're composing poetry, they use all sorts of meters, right? Different meters, like we hear different meters in Srimad Bhagavatam, Anustu, Shardula Vikridita, and different meters are there. So they're making composition, and then in one of their verses, there's some extra syllable is needed. And so they'll put the name, maybe they use the name of Hari to complete the meter, for example. There's an example of Stobam. And Prabhupada call it here for musical entertainment. There's poetry and then music and so on. So that is a type of namabas. And then the fourth one, it says, Helanam, which translated here is like neglectfully. So there I recall that we heard, there was some statement quoted where Krishna, he lifted the Govardhan hill like Hela, like casually, you know, very easily he lifted it. So like that casually, you're saying the name, not with any sort of focus, meditation on, you know, some sort of fixed nam japa practice or something, just saying like, Hare Krishna or whatever. You know, you see something really crazy in the city, you go, Hare Krishna. So this is not done with animosity inside. So this is counted as namabas. And then the fifth type is the next verse. Some situation that's outside of your control, suddenly you say the holy name in that situation. So these are 5 types there. Okay, very good. So now we have a set of questions from that long commentary that we read. So let's see how we go through this. So number 5, accepting the name destroys sins like atonements. How can it be the atonement for thousands of grave sins that cannot be destroyed by thousands of 12-year vows? So all these questions are basically taken directly from the commentary, so it should have been more or less easy to pick up. Okay, answer. What's answer? Who has an answer? Nobody has answer. Except for Sham, Saki, Sham, Gopi, and Agape.
I have an answer.
Okay.
I just lost the connection.
Okay.
Read it from my notes.
Well, let's go over and try first. Then we'll hear from Sham Gopi. Actually, Sham Gopi, you go first. You haven't spoken yet.
Prabhu, I wrote like a 12-year vow of atonement can destroy the reactions or effects of sin, but it cannot destroy the root of the sin. But chanting the Lord's holy name is the best atonement because it destroys the root of the sin. And further destruction of sin is the secondary effect of chanting the holy name. The primary or the main effect is that the Lord's mind dwells on such a person, as Agape already said, like Tad Vishaya Mati. And he gives attention to such a person so much so that the Lord thinks that since this person has chanted my name, it is my duty to protect such a soul. And you gave the example of Draupadi chanting Lord's name. And then Krishna was obliged and made him feel grateful that this person has chanted. So my devotee has chanted, so I need to help her, basically.
Very good. Yeah, basically the idea is that the atonements can eradicate sinful reaction, but the root of sin, what is the root of sin?
It's avidya.
Avidya. Material desire, which is called bija, and then avidya is underneath that. So holy name destroys that. That's how it can be the atonement for unlimited sins, because sins are done in avidya. So if avidya is destroyed, then all sins will be atoned for. So that's the answer. And then of course, there's an extra real purpose that it attracts the Lord to such a person. Okay, very good.
May I ask a quick question, Prabhu,
Yeah.
on the last thing you just said?
Sure.
I've heard you make a list of descending causes before, and Bahir Mukha fell under avidya. Is that something else? Like, what am I remembering where Bahir Mukha is like the original problem?
Well, for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we say, in a sense, even what belies avidya is being oblivious of Bhagavan. When we quote verses like Ishare Petasha Viparyo Ashmiti Bhayam Dvitiya Vinibeshatasha. So the jiva is turned away from Bhagavan, which means he has absence of awareness of Bhagavan. So that absence of awareness of Bhagavan causes Ashmitihi. Ashmriti means forgetfulness of one's own self. Ashmriti means you don't, lack of remembrance. But Charya's Sridhar Swami says this means you don't know yourself. So because of not knowing Bhagavan or being oblivious to Bhagavan, so the soul also does not know itself. And because it doesn't know itself, viparya. So viparya means like reversal or opposite. So he thinks himself opposite of what he is, which is a product of matter. So in this sense, bahir mukha, which is a term like anadi bahir mukha, we've been externally oriented, which basically refers here to being oblivious of Bhagavan. And we just translate that as turned away from Bhagavan for a time without beginning. So because of that, the avidya is coming. So in that sense, you can give it like a list. Of course, these things are all existing together. They're all beginningless states. So there is no real sequence as such. We just describe it in a sequential way for pedagogical purposes. But all these states are beginningless, so they're all there together. Turned away from God, lack of awareness of self, identification with the body, absorption and duality, fear that comes from that. So we describe them in sequence because it makes it easy to capture all the various elements of our issue. But if you had to say at the very root of it, it's because of being oblivious to Bhagavan. So even the Jivan Muktas on the path of Jnana and Yoga, they have awareness of themselves. So they are not Ashmritihi in this sense. But they may also be oblivious of Bhagavan, so they can't get out of Maya yet. So that's why Gaudiyas, we would say like this, the real root problem is that we are not aware of Bhagavan. Bhagavat by Mukhya, different terms are given to it.
So avidya is still considered the root of sin, but when talking about just the state of the reason for why we're in this existence, bahirmukha is sometimes given as like the original or the first cause.
You can say whatever you want, honestly. Like I said, these are all beginningless, they're all concurrent issues together because of having, being beginningless. So you can say whatever you want. The teacher will sometimes emphasize this thing in one place and emphasize another thing in another place. You can really say whatever you want. Generally, for Vedanta culture in general, avidya is always stated as a problem. So in the commentaries, that will mostly be used like that. But Gaudiyas, we also understand that the only reason avidya is there, or you can say avidya is synonymous with being non-aware of Bhagavan. So it's just like a further clarification of the issue. So you can say however you like to say it. No problem.
That helps. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okie dokes. So then question 6, if Ajamil's first chanting destroyed the root of sin, namely ignorance, how come he continued to commit sins after chanting the first time? So this is a good question. So who has answered? Okay, Sri Govinda. Oh, wait. Sorry, Sri Govinda. We got Mukunda. Someone new is finally stepping up to the plate. Let's hear it. Oh, he's cutting and pasting. We want to hear your voice, Prabhu.
I can speak it.
Yes.
Ajamala's sins that he committed after chanting the first time are compared to the bites of a toothless snake. These sins no longer generated results or karma. Additionally, the Lord causes continuance of sin so that processes outside of bhakti, like karma kanda, are not completely abandoned.
Very good. That first part could be slightly elaborated on a little bit. Sri Govinda, you have anything else?
I wrote the following, that there were basically two answers given. One is that he becomes like Jivan Mukta and he's destroyed all his aparabdha karma, that which is yet to manifest through. And this is destroyed through jnana, yoga, or even bhakti. But his parabdha karma continues until the time of death. The example of a fan is given. When turned off, it continues to spin until it stops. So these imprints of sinful life were playing themselves out, though not producing any result. And the second answer is that the Lord will cause the continuance of sin. And this is that if people were to see the effects of the holy name, they may think that why are we struggling to have a pious life according to Shastra? And then they see someone who leads a sinful life suddenly taking shelter of the holy name, and he is seen as a sadhu. So people will think that, why are we following all the Shastra? These people, of course, do not have adhikar for bhakti and would otherwise develop animosity towards karma, Shastra, and there will be destruction of their life.
Wow, that was very in-depth. Very good.
I did my homework, man. I did my homework.
So yeah, the example of the toothless snake, is in the context of a jivan mukta. He's doing activity, but is not producing any result, any karma phala. So although it appears that Ajamil is doing sin, it is like the actions of a jivan mukta. And then the example is given, toothless snake there. Right, and very good. That was very in-depth. Anyone else wants to say anything else? That's hard to, that was pretty comprehensive. There might not be much more to say than that.
I'll just add, I like the terminology used for the Shastras, that it will be destroyed. The other Shastras.
Yeah, people won't follow. They'll say, why I should follow? They get envious and they say, why I should follow? But they also don't have Bhakti Adhikar. So they'll now also do that. So then finished. Okay, very good. Next question. Ajamil's case is an exception to the rule. What is a general way the name manifests its mercy? The fruit tree example. Okay, who wants to speak on this one? Okay, Sham Sundari.
Chanting of the holy name will have effect only after some time, just as a fruit tree bears fruit after some time. Like generally, a fruit tree bears fruit only in the proper season. So also the devotee we experience will receive the effect of the holy name only in the proper time.
Right. Yeah, so Sri Vishwanath says that we should not be afraid, because hearing Ajamil's exceptional example, fear will come in our heart. I've been chanting for so many years, I ain't feeling no. My avidya is solid as it ever was. And one becomes a little confused by that. So he said, don't worry. The conclusion should be that the holy name will give results, and progressively. Just as when you plant fruit tree, you don't expect the fruit to come quickly. So was there anything else to be said about that? I don't remember. Shamsaki.
Yes, Prabhu, you also mentioned, I mean, it's in the commentary that sometimes the chanting of the holy names might not produce the effect, but it can take the chanter to the Lord abode directly. So that is what happened, right? So, and then for devotees, it said that the Lord himself delays the results to augment their humility and eagerness.
Very good. I thought the next questions we'll get to anyway. Yeah. So that point is there. Number one is that holy name will give results in due course time, like the fruit tree example. The other point is that the holy name will not give any fruits or appear to give any fruits, even though the person is also chanting offensively. And sometimes the Lord will give even what appears to be opposite fruit, like some suffering to his devotee, because it augments his bhava, his love. So in this way, 3 elements were there. Very good. Okay, I kind of thought that was covered in another question, but it may not have been, so that's very good. Okay, question 8. Because of the offense of thinking the name's glories an exaggeration, one may go to hell. Arthavad was the word. But if the chanting destroys all sins, all karmis, gyanis, yogis, and bhaktas should not go to hell for illicit sex or violence if they chant. Or if the name doesn't destroy all sins, then all, including the bhaktas, should suffer the consequences, even if they chant. So how is this reconciled? How is Ajamil's life demonstrative of both sides of this conundrum? Okay, I hope it was clear. Okay, we're gonna say Sham Gopi.
Okay, Prabhu, so it's little long. I'm gonna read it because so it is seen that the karmis, yogis, and jnanis also chant the names as part of their practice or rituals. But when they do sin, they go down. But when a bhakta does sin, he doesn't.
It's
So
7:45.
sorry, Prabhu. So is it not unfair? So if the holy name can destroy sin, it should do so for everyone. And if it does not destroy sin, then it would not destroy for anyone. So to understand that, the example given in the commentary is of a merchant who protects a person who is under his shelter according to the degree that the person surrenders to him. So if the person offends him, the merchant becomes displeased and then he withdraws his protection, even though the merchant is capable of offering protection. And to the degree the offense is diminished, the protection offered by the merchant is restored, and then he shows the mercy to the servant. Similarly, the name has the power to offer protection, but the name does not extend its mercy to those who are offenders. So those who take chanting as a secondary means to support their primary practice of karma, jnana, or yoga in order to attain the results or fruits from their practice of karma and jnana, they are not considered as Vaishnavas, or they are not considered as devotees, and actually are offenders to the holy name. And how are they offenders is because of the eighth offense, which is to consider the name equal to the pious activities of karma kanda mentioned in the Vedas, like performing yagya, tapasya, vrata, and dharma. So if considering the name equal to karma and dharma is an offense, then the offense will be much, much more severe if the name is considered secondary or in a supportive position to attain the results of karma and dharma. So thus, because of their very nature, they are offensive. That is on account of the offense of using the name as a supportive limb for karma. They do not experience the full scope of bhakti and they fall down. However, like it is said that Bhakti Devi is quite merciful, and even though she recognizes that she has been offended, but out of her compassion, she thinks that this person has still taken my shelter, even though it is to attain the results of their own processes. But she sees, uh, even though she is being used as simply a limb, she still gives the practitioner the fruits of karma and jnana and other processes without any obstruction. Um, but if a person actually commits other offenses, like committing offense to the devotees or interpreting the holy name while performing other processes, then Bhakti Devi does not give any result for their efforts, even though she continues to be a limb of those processes. And the same thing happens with when the holy name is seen as an exaggeration or hyperbole, like it is just to advertise the glories of the holy names to prompt people to take up chanting. So this is an offense, like the arthavad basically. But the devotees on the other hand, who are on the path of bhakti, they chant the holy names without any offense, like they don't consider holy name as a supportive to their practice, because they are practicing bhakti. So they are, even though they commit sins, they are not criticized or they go to hell. So it's the same case that happened with Ajamil, to the second part of your question, that on the strength of his namabhas chanting, he attained Vaikuntha. But other people like Karmi, Gyanis, and Yogis, who also know scriptures, who also chant, but they continue to exist in samsara or even go to hell because of the offense of interpreting the holy names either to be an exaggeration or putting it as a secondary limb to attain success in their own process. So for Ajamil, he was a smart Brahmana who was chanting, which was a form of bhakti, but he was using it as a secondary process to his own primary process of karma. So he was considered an offender naturally, but he did not commit any specific offense like Nam or Vaishnava Prad. So he got the result of his pious karmic activity because Bhakti Devi gave the result of his primary process, karma. But then when he got engaged in sinful life without atonement, and that life was quite prolonged, then his Brahmanical status was destroyed. And because his Brahmanical status was destroyed, along with that, his secondary bhakti was also destroyed, because now he stopped doing any karma kanda or any dharmic activities. No, now then he became a corrupt fallen Brahman. And from that position, when he chanted the holy name, even though as like calling out as for his son, it was actually without offense, and he was not using bhakti as a support for attaining anything. So initially he got the result as a karmi from bhakti, and then later he got result of bhakti because he actually practiced bhakti. So that was my answer, Prabhu.
I think all bases are covered. You kind of combined the answer to the next question and this question a little bit. They're kind of combined, but it actually fits. Does anyone else want to add anything to this? I don't know if anything can really be added. It was very comprehensive. The basic idea is that those who take bhakti as a secondary supportive limb of their process, like karma, for example, then when they do sin, they have to also do atonement. Otherwise, they get the sinful reaction, even though they chant Hare Krishna, even though they're chanting the holy name, because that holy name is only secondary to their primary practice of karma. If they do sin, they also have to do atonement. Otherwise, they go to hell, right? And of course, if they do pious activities, then they get the result of their pious activities also because of the chanting of that holy name. So in other words, bhakti will empower their atonement, and bhakti will give them also the fruit of their pious activity. So by that secondary bhakti, they're considered natural offenders because they take bhakti as inferior to dharma, artha, etc. And to consider the holy name equal is itself an offense. So they're considered inferior or just something that's supportive of something else is an offense by nature. But Bhakti Devi is kind and will give them the fruits of their atonement and of their piety because they're taking shelter of her, according to scriptural edicts. Now, if they commit deliberate offense to the holy name, so they're natural offenders, but if they do a deliberate offense to the holy name, like artavad, saying that the holy name's glorification is exaggerated, or they do some Vaishnava aparat, then she will not give them the fruit of their piety or the fruit of their atonement. And they have to suffer the results of their offensive activity. But then if they get sadhu sangha and they give up their offense, then again, their secondary bhakti will bless them with the fruit of their atonement or their pious activities. And if they do a nice sadhu sangha, then they may even give up karma also and become bhaktas. So Ajamil's story, of course, demonstrates both sides because he was such a smart Brahmin before, and then he became destroyed that by his life of sin. And so then his chanting after his life of sin was basically considered just devotion proper, which is interesting. Okay. Agape says, I feel like this part of the commentary addresses some of the key components that are bewildering to those who hear this pastime. Yeah, for sure. I think so too. So this commentary is kind of important. It's a pretty important one. Let's look at the next question, which Sham Gopi actually kind of already answered, but we're still going to ask it anyway. If there's a scriptural rule that bhakti should be performed as a limb of karma, how is it that it's still considered offensive? How can they destroy their offense? So scripture is only telling them to do karma and to have bhakti as support. So they're following scripture, but you're saying they are offenders. So how is that still considered offensive? And how can they destroy their offense? What answers anyone give? Okay, Sri Govinda, you want to go?
I have an answer. No, I was waving a fly off, but I can read what I wrote. This is the one question I'm not so in love with my answer, but I was a little lost on it. But I wrote the following, that it said something regarding avoid recognizing as an authoritative scripture statements which allow bhakti out of mercy for mentally crooked persons who have no faith in bhakti, but only faith in jnana and karma. Though an offender may attain the results of karma and jnana by secondary bhakti, his offenses are not destroyed. But then I wrote, one must have sharanagati, surrender, or they will not receive the grace of bhakti. One may become very proud by their jnana and and this is not bhakti. Spiritual knowledge is not meant to be used by us. It is meant to be surrendered to, and for us to be used by it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think that's the answer.
Not sure I entirely answered, but that's what I came to. So I can use some help from the group.
Yeah, let's hear some help. I think I remember it was being told that just as in Shastra, it will talk about doing some animal sacrifice. So in animal sacrifice, there is still violence to the animal. Even though Shastra is telling that still violence is done to the animal, and you're not free from the reactions of that violence. Or it's not that violence is not done just because you are following scripture. You may be following scripture, but still violence is being done, right? And of course, that violence is ordained because you will otherwise anyway be violent, but you will be violent without any inhibition. But now by following Shastra, that violent tendency is regulated according to Shastric edicts, and gradually you can make improvement and give up such violent tendencies. So the idea here is similar. Just because Shastra tells to use bhakti in a secondary way in karma shastras, it doesn't mean that you're free from the offense of putting bhakti in a secondary sense, even though Shastra is telling. So the idea basically is that any way you will do karmic activities, and it needs to be regulated, and it needs to be supported by bhakti at least in order for it to bear any fruit. So Shastra is telling like that, but you still don't get out of the offense of putting bhakti in a secondary position. In the same way that you don't get out of the act of violence towards animals just because Shastra is telling, still violence is done. So still some offense is being done. And yes, how to give that up? So then there should be sadhu sangha, and then from sadhu sangha, there should be sharanagati, faith characterized by surrender. Then that time you're becoming a devotee. So then you give up that offensive mentality because you're embracing bhakti at that time. Otherwise, it's not possible to give it up as long as you remain fixed in your ego as a karmi. So yeah, that is the answer that I also recall. Does anyone want to say anything more to this?
I thought it was interesting that, the way to clear it was to take initiation with the Vaishnava guru, and it said by pure or mixed bhakti with bhakti as the primary.
Right. So basically that means you get sadhu sangha, all right? From sadhu sangha, you get faith, characterized by surrender. So surrender will mean you take shelter of the guru, and then he gives you Vaishnava Diksha. And then you become a Vaishnava. Now you may be doing Karma Mishra Bhakti, Gyan Mishra Bhakti, or Shuddha Bhakti, but you're a Bhakta. Either mixed Bhakta or pure Bhakta, but you are a Bhakta. So that means you've given up the offensive mentality. That was kind of like a saboteur in your life pre-sadhu sangha as a karmi or whatever one was. Usually karmi, maybe some gyanis or their yogis also. Okay, anything else? Let's finish.
May I ask a quick question?
Yeah, let's hear it.
So in the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna is describing different paths, is he always describing mixed bhakti with bhakti as the primary, or is he sometimes talking about karma or gyan paths on their own?
So in the first
with the elements of bhakti.
Yeah, in the first 6 chapters of Gita, Krishna is mostly speaking about the process of karma yoga. And he's contrasting karma yoga with Gyan yoga. And he also ends it with a little bit of a discussion on Ashtanga yoga in chapter 6. So in that first 6 chapters, he's not talking about Karma Mishra Bhakti or Gyan Mishra Bhakti or Yoga Mishra Bhakti. That he doesn't come to until the middle 6 chapters. So in the first 6 chapters, he's actually only speaking about Karma Yoga process and a little bit about Ashtanga Yoga process. Gyan Yoga is also brought up, but in contrast with Karma Yoga. Krishna really doesn't dig the Gyan Yoga process at all. He only brings it up in contrasting it with Karma Yoga throughout the Gita. So it's very interesting. I wrote an essay on this for a magazine. here in New York called Embodied Philosophy. It was like it was like 5 pages. It was like an 8,000 word essay. And called the yogas of Bhagavad Gita. That was the title of the article. I was really happy with my article. I thought I did a really good job. And I was, anyway, I was also not surprised, but I demonstrated how the Gyan Yoga process, Krishna doesn't actually advocate for at all. He just brings it up in the contrast with Karma Yoga. So that is yoga with bhakti as a supportive limb. So he does talk about bhakti in the first 6 chapters. Karma yogis shall offer the fruits of the results to God, for example. And there's meditation on God for the yogis. There's knowledge of God for the Gyanis. So he speaks about it there. So that bhakti there is supportive, but mainly they're, karma yogi, Gyan yogi, ashtam yogi. Then the middle 6 chapters of Gita, then you get karma mishra bhakti, Gyan mishra bhakti, yoga mishra bhakti in chapter 8. And then of course, Shuddha bhakti. So both are given. Just as just a point of interest, just kind of an interesting thing. In the first 6 chapters of the Gita, Krishna his voice is as the teacher of yoga. But in the middle 6 chapters, he becomes the deity of the book. So he has a very distinct shift in voice from the first 6 chapters to the middle 6 chapters. So in the first 6 chapters, even though he does bring up his divinity in several contexts, because it comes up incidentally, he is still just a teacher of yoga. But in the middle 6 chapters, he's God. I'm Bhagavan. I'm the one who is to be worshipped and so on. So accordingly, he deals with the yoga systems and those different voices. So in the first 6 chapters, it's just the yoga system supported by bhakti. And in the middle 6 chapters, it's bhakti. And it may have support with karma, gyan, or yoga, or purely. So that's how he kind of treats it there. Yeah, let me see. I tried to send an essay to a friend the other day and it wasn't working. Anyway, I'll try to send it to the WhatsApp group. I liked it. I thought it was a good essay. Okay, let's try to finish this Sri Vishwanath thing. It's 9 o'clock here. So question 10, for offenders, they must progress through the 14 stages. For non-offenders, there are only 2 stages. What are the 14 and 2 stages respectively? So this one should have been easy to, okay. Sham Sundari.
Okay, so the 2 stages are, we do Harinam and then we attain Vaikuntha. We do Bhajan and we attain Prema immediately. And if we have offenses done before, so we have to go through the 14 stages.
Okay, what are those?
I don't have them in Sanskrit, but okay. The mercy of the devotees first, sadhusanga, then service to the devotees, then faith, shraddha, then surrender to a guru, the desire for bhajan, then bhakti starts, then purification of anarthas, then anishta bhakti, nishta bhakti, ruchi rati, prema, darshan of the Lord, and the last one, experiencing his sweetness.
Okay, very good. There's a shloka there. You can go and find it in Sri Vishwanath's commentary to 1st Canto, chapter 2, verse 21. So he composes his own shloka, which is a description of those 14 stages, 1 to 21, just in case those of you are out there that like learning shlokas.
Where is it fine? Where?
First Canto, chapter 2, verse 21. And Sri Vishwanath's commentary at the back, he puts it. Okay, that's good. Number 11. So some who are not offenders still take birth. Why? Those who are offenders also take birth, but why? Is it due to karma or some other reason? So Shamsaki.
Yes, Prabhu. So I wrote that the devotees of Lord Vishnu, they do not take birth according to their karma. That is not according to their sin or piety. And the verse, a little excerpt from a verse like na karma bandhanam janma vaishnavam cha vidyate, but they take birth so that their bhakti sprout can continue to mature and fructify to bear leaves and fruits. and the life of a devotee is under the jurisdiction of the Lord's internal energy, but not the material energy. And sometimes to augment one's eagerness and desire to attain the Lord, the devotees may even have to take 1, 2, or 3 lifetimes to finally attain the Lord. And even sufferings are sometimes given to the devotees of the Lord by the Lord to skillfully increase their devotion. And the example is given like a doctor who administers bitter medicine or recommends fasting to increase the appetite of the patient.
Very good. Very nice. Comprehensive. Okay, so the last question for this commentary: what offenses are obstacles to being Vaishnavas? What 2 offenses are considered most egregious, and what is the remedy for both? Okay. Okay, Sham Gopi, I see your hand is up.
This is easy. So out of 10 offenses, the 2 that are considered obstacle to a devotee, they are interpreting the name thinking its glories to be an exaggeration. And the second one is equating the holy names to pious activities. And the 2 offenses that are considered most egregious are, first is offending the devotees. It's like, I really like this particular line that was written in the commentary, that name does not tolerate criticism of those who spread the name. It's from Padma Puran. So that verse like somehow is very nicely put. And the second one is committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting. And the remedy for both of these offenses is to continuously chant the name. And the first one, like the one that is more egregious, for that we have to suffer at the same time, and the suffering will be appropriate or proportionate to the amount of offense that we have committed. But the effect of other offenses can be destroyed simply by chanting without much suffering.
Very good. Nice. Excellent. If we don't have offenses, it's truly 1, chant, and 2, be happy. That's a very good comment, actually, Agape. So we say chant and be happy, and then there's some small prints there. So when the devotees come to us in the future complaining, you said chant and be happy. We say, oh, you forgot to read the small print. So the small print is there. It says we don't do the offenses. But because you do offenses, there's 14 stages for you. So you should learn about the 14 stages. Yes, Shri Govinda.
I was just going to say, Shamasundari and I were working on that last question. And when it came to the part of what is the remedy for both, unlike the nice comment by Agape, we actually wrote that the remedy is to continually chant the holy name and suffer. So, apropos Agape's comment.
Oh my God, that's funny. That's funny. And facts also, that matches my experience, at least in Christian consciousness. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow. The rest of chapter 2, chapter 3 is up also. I put it, I don't know, 2 days ago, yesterday or 2 days ago. I was late, I completely forgot about it, but it's there. You can see it if you like. Not very difficult, very easy. Only a few questions there. Hari Om Tat Sat. We'll try to finish this up tomorrow by Wednesday. And then Thursday we'll begin chapter 4 and 5, 6th canto.
Prabhu, tomorrow is Gita's appearance day. Can you teach us a little bit about like an overview of Bhagavad Gita or some of your reflections instead of doing this? Would love to hear about Bhagavad Gita from you.
I guess I can do something with Gita. I'll look at something today and see how the inspiration comes for that. Okay, Hari Om Tat Sat. Thanks a lot. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Gaudiya Guru Bharga ki jai. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo.